Call a meeting to order and let the minutes show that we do have a quorum of three. I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands of the First Nations and has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. In particular, I acknowledge the history, spirituality, and culture of the territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi Nation, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Neaj, known collectively as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as traditional keepers of this land. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this area, as well as the contributions of the Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples whose ancestors share these lands and waters. May we live with respect for each other on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. Miigwech. Prior to today's meeting, the board met in closed sessions to review and discuss matters. Their opinion fell under Section 44 of the Community Policing Act and Section 25, Item B of the Owen Sound Police Services Board General Policy 003, Board Governance, and to consider matters regarding staffing, board training, and labor relations. On to item number 3, does anything have anything to add to the agenda?
Yes. Second one.
So we're on special counsel, we'll add that at the end of the, under new business, I think it was. Yeah.
Need to grab the forms off my desk for you to sign. Rather.
That's okay, no worries. But we can actually do that afterwards then. All right, so if we have a motion for approval of the agenda, Brian, Carol, second, all in favor, Harry? Declaration of conflict of interest arising out of the minutes and matters listed on the agenda. Hearing none, we don't have any presentation deputations or question periods at this point in time. Confirmation of the minutes of the public session held June 25th, 2025. Motion, Carol, thank you. Brian, thank you. All in favor? These now, just as a note, these minutes can now be sent to the city to appear in the next council meeting. And Carol, if you have any questions, and I was going to say you and Marion could pick straws, but or draw straws, but she's not here. It's really not fair for her to do it. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to. Moving on to item number 7, business arising out of the public session, the minutes June 25th. Hearing none. Moving on to correspondence received. First item is notification of update. It was a busy weekend. These types of weeks and weekends are becoming more frequent, more the norm rather than the exception. So just an idea of all those things that are out there. There was also a email received from a private citizen regarding an incident downtown they and others are exposed to. There was information on the Grey Bruce data information. Crime Stoppers of Grey Bruce are quarterly, it's not quarterly, they're April to December coordinators report. The Grey Bruce Health Opiate Situation Report, April to June 2025. We also had a direction from the Solicitor General regarding OPP presence in Sault Ste. Marie. This letter was in response to Sault Ste. Marie Police Service Board asking for an OPP costing. And I think the outcome of the letter is self-explanatory. I also attached an article from the Peterborough Examiner that speaks to costs as a result of the CSPA and the impacts it's going to have on Peterborough upcoming budget. And I think the chief there spoke to probably every municipal force service in Ontario. And I think it's been a topic at most of the small and mid-sized service meetings that you've attended, Craig. Yeah. So it's not just they're not picking on Owen Sound, they're picking on everybody. There's costs everywhere that are increasing significantly. I also included a delegation update, and this report came from the September 8th Owen Sound Council package, reporting on the city's delegation to this year's AMO conference. And one area of interest in the city, and I think Carol, you pointed out to me before I get a chance to read it, was on page 5, and it noted that the Hanover Police Service represents 34 cents each tax dollar collected by the community, whereas Owen Sound Police Service accounts for 28 cents. So there's a significant difference when you look at the two communities. The The report also goes on to state that Solicitor General Kirzner expressed his strong support for community policing and requested his deputy minister travel to Owen Sound to discuss the regional flow of criminality, and no date has been set for that visit. Any questions or comments on any of the correspondence that we received? Moving on. Chair's report. Back in June, I guess it was, I attended the swearing-in ceremony and appointment of Matthias Hubman as constable with the Owen Sound Police Service. As part of that ceremony, we also had a special video presentation from Michael Kirzner, Solicitor General of Ontario. And before we start the video, Craig, can you give us a little bit of background on how that?
We were advised by the minister that we had a special introductory welcome to our new constable from when I was down at OPC, and that he had recorded. We wanted to make sure that it got played, and much appreciated. I think that basically sets up the video here.
Good morning. I'm Michael Kirzner, proud to be Ontario Solicitor General. I want to welcome everyone who's gathered today for today's badging ceremony. I want to acknowledge Chief Ambrose and your leadership team, the distinguished guests, and most importantly, our newest member of the Owen Sound Police Service, Matthias. I want to say to him how much I appreciate the fact that you have come forward today, that you have come forward to serve in a great police service in a beautiful part of Ontario. And you're going to do so because you're bringing everything that you have with you on this journey. You're bringing your courage, your commitment to serve, your incredible life's experiences, which actually Matthias I've read about are quite incredible. I want to congratulate the Owen Sound Police Service. Owen Sound is a hidden treasure in Ontario. And I know that everyone who puts on their uniform day in and day out to keep this most beautiful part of Ontario safe is allowing the most fundamental rights to be protected within the community. It's allowing people to wake up their kids in the morning and see them off to school, to check in on our loved ones and seniors, allowing us to go to work, allowing us to have a place to shop and to pray, and to do so in this beautiful community of Owen Sound. And Matthias, you're going to be part of this team to make this reality, this fulfillment of our rights a reality. Matthias, I want to say something else to you. The flash that you will wear on your uniform is not just anything. It symbolizes the strength of a community. It symbolizes the pride that we have as Ontarians to be proud of living in this province and in our country. We believe in our province and we believe so much in our country. And there's never been a better time for you to have come forward. So I want to congratulate you today as you're about to be badged, and to thank your families for helping you reach this incredible day. Good luck. I look forward to seeing you in person soon. Félicitations à tous. Merci beaucoup. And miigwech.
You get that one for everyone?
No, but that being said, he has sent out an indication, like a request, that if we have any special events or if we have anything coming up, he will have either, well, he'd like to come in person if his schedule allows, or he will do up some type of a message for anything that we're hosting. So we'll keep him up on that, and we'll keep him up to date on swearing-ins and things like that. He does have a busy schedule, so to get here is
No doubt.
a challenge, I'm sure, but yes, it was nice.
And you just got back from OPC for 2 graduations?
Just yes.
Garrett and
Yeah.
Lee?
Yeah.
And they're
Reed
being,
Canal and Harjit Singh.
and they're being badged on Monday the 29th. I think I said an invite out to the board members to be there.
Yeah.
So I thought just because we didn't have any board meetings during the summer, I'd have lots of free time. Not so much. I never even got a golfing yet, so that's how bad it was. Just to give you some of the idea with some of the OAPSB had a day-long strategic planning meeting, July 3rd. There was a board member discussion group session held on July 7th for OAPSB. July 22nd, there's a financial review, OAP is treasurer. 28th community organization meeting regarding the River District, and I think we all saw that. The report came out on the 28th at the last council meeting, portion of it. August 6th, there was an OEPSB strategic planning committee meeting. August 20, Mediquadong end of summer bash. I think Carol, you were at that as well. I saw you picturing down over. August 29th, I attended a webinar on collaborating effectively with government, and it was basically focused on how similar municipalities are collaborating with other levels of government to address the substance use challenges their communities are facing. September 2nd was a swearing-in ceremony for Inspector Doherty. And September 17th, there was also a webinar on community policing and health partnerships. And it involved collaboration between policing, healthcare, and social services, and how critical it is to improve justice and health outcomes within communities, including substance use and health. Focus on smaller municipalities are enhancing community safety and well-being throughout policing, as well as with healthcare partnerships. And Police Chief Tim Farquharson from Port Hope, he was one of the guest speakers. And what I'm trying to do is to get the audios from that, the videos, and I'll share those with the board when they get posted to the websites. Moving on to governance, I don't have anything at this point in time. Hank, do you have anything for the open session of this meeting?
No, sir, thank you.
Thank you. So as you probably remember, this first meeting after summer break is pretty lengthy, so let's get started with the reports and move it over to CIB and drug enforcement.
That's,
Okay.
Well, I'll be me today. The next meeting will be redistributed.
Yeah, I'm just not gonna introduce who's gonna do it. I'll just say, here it is.
You know what, maybe we should start with just, there's some new people around the table, and for anybody that's joining in on the watching the meeting, introduce our two newest members and that else to.
All right, good, thanks, Craig. To our left is our newest inspector, Craig Matheson. Welcome. Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
And Craig's been with Owen Sound for 23 years. Okay, stuff. And next is another new inspector, Inspector Doherty. He comes from us from Peel Regional Services. And I won't ask you how long you've been there. So 30 years. 30 years, okay. And we have a newly minted deputy police chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I guess those are all intros that it's everybody on the table. Next meeting, we'll have a new board member, Marion Kepke. She was recently appointed by council, so she'll be showing up at our next meeting. She had other obligations, so she wasn't able to attend this meeting. So. All right, and back to you, David.
Okay. Just in the interest of brevity, with 3 months to go through, I'm going to go through these fairly quickly. If you do have any questions, please just jump in. So at the start of the CIB report for going on a couple of years now, you've seen the reports on our 3 homicides. They are all continuing to go on. I'm hoping one, so the second homicide was supposed to have been some sentencing in August. I haven't got an update on that just yet, so I'm hoping that did occur. And we'll be able to at least take one of them off for next month. Homicide 1, there is a continued perjury trial that's going along with that. Homicide 3, that would be the Curry House Raman homicide. You've probably seen some media attention that continues to go on about that. That is still awaiting extradition procedures, again adjourned to October 20th. And just for clarity in the room, that process really does not involve us. We're obviously very involved in the investigation, laying the charges, but once it moves to the stage that it's at, that is really doesn't involve the police service, other than we keep up with what's happening with it. But it's a process that's happening between the Department of Justice and the United Kingdom. So Back on May 10th, we had a fatal fail to remain dangerous driving. 21-year-old male charged with dangerous operation of motor vehicle causing death and failure to stop at an accident. There's a bunch of work still to be done with that, with a number of phone downloads and a lot of volume of digital evidence to be going through. So that one is still ongoing. Back in June, assisting with an intimate partner violence case in which a 6-year-old child present in the home was a key witness. So that involved a little bit of extra work as Bruce Grade Child and Family Services assisted in obtaining a statement from that child. Grey Bruce OPP, we assisted with a historical sexual assault that was alleged while the victim was providing a statement regarding another incident. So as a result, 48-year-old Georgian Bluffs male has been charged with 3 counts of sexual assault. Again, I'm going to skip through some of these fairly quickly. Intimate partner violence, sexual assault, which was a 76-year-old male towards an 8-year-old girl. He's been arrested and charged as of August. And another joint investigation with Bruce Grade Child and Family Services, 2 incidents of sexual assault, 13-year-old young person on his 8-year-old half-sister. And there was some follow-on investigation later with that revealed the accused youth was also a victim himself. And so that investigation is ongoing. Our MHART, or we now call the MCRT, we'll have to get that changed. Stats are there in terms of the referrals and cases that they worked that through the summer. Big list of training, meetings, that sort of thing that's happened. We assisted Sudbury with interviewing a female of domestic violence that was in our area on their behalf. Perth County OPP asked for some assistance with us on a child pornography case. And back in August as well, there was a joint initiative with OPP West Region Provincial Human Trafficking Team, where they teamed up with a number of the area police services for attempts to connect with possible victims of human trafficking. Interestingly, there were numerous online ads located offering sexual services in Owen Sound. They were all contact, and they were all different ads, which would appear to advertise different persons, but when they actually dug into it, it was all for a single individual operating out of a local motel here. Engagement was made with that female, no immediate safety concerns identified. June, July, we had no drug-related deaths, but in August, we did have 1. So that's bringing our total up to 4 for 2025, which is still far lower than what we've seen in previous years, at least year to date. So that's a good trend that we'd like to see. That's the CIB report. If there's no questions on that, I'll move to auxiliary. So the June, July, and August stats for the auxiliary are there. They remain busy during the summer, 166, 155, 134 hours each month donated, as well as a list of the things that the auxiliary assisted us with there that I won't go through, but they do remain very busy. We are midway through training of 7 new auxiliary members. That will probably finish in the next month or 2, and then they'll be up and running as new auxiliary members too. So I expect we will have a graduation ceremony of some sort as we get towards the end that you'll be invited to for that. That's exciting. Community-oriented response and enforcement for the 3 months. I believe I totaled them all together. Yes, I did. So you're seeing 3 months worth of stats for that. During the summer months, our lone corps officer had a number of fill-in spots for assisting with CIB and patrol related to holidays and other things, but still managed to get a fair bit of foot patrol, bicycle patrol, and charges in. So that's our core report. Frontline patrol report and collision statistics. Okay. So this one, the first part is blended. So this is all of your June, July, and August stats combined. So you'll see broken down for our 4 full-time platoons and our traffic and part-time officers. as well as with the 2024 year-to-date stats that go along with that. So any questions there? One point that was just down, so we discussed it, part-time officers began being reassigned for court security details in August. And as a result of that, performed 144 hours of court security that they wouldn't have otherwise been doing. So if you do see a little bit of reduction in the part-time officers, that is why. In June, there were 12 on-duty ride checks, 558 drivers. The stats are there. July, there were 12, and in August, there were 10. And we also list the number of impaired charges that were done outside of the ride programs as well, below there. Collision statistics, those we present to you every year. I've separated them for June, July, and August. As is normal, we see a spike in collisions that seem to kick in the June, July, and August range. And that is typical of what we've seen in past years. So that is that report, unless there's any questions. The community services is next, Chief, if you're gonna.
Yeah, so special constable Jason Craney's report. So there was a number of activities and events that he attended. You can read the list there and probably have already. Quite a bit of work with school partnerships and provincial committees. We're planning a VITRA violence threat risk assessment level 2 course in November, which has been quite a bit of work for us to host. That's being offered to all our partners and other municipal and services and Grapers, as well as the school boards, and that's on how to respond to and how to plan for incidents at schools primarily. We're in working on the operations plan and how we meet our work with the community. And you'll see the picture there. Our youth and policing students did a tour at the Ontario Police College back in the summertime. But they did a successful summer with all of our youth and policing students, and they've now been they're now back to school, and we're doing interviews for the next round for to bring new members on. Last hours.
Sure.
So, last hours in training, you'll see June, July, and August, the number of full-time members, total shifts that have been missing. Pretty comparable throughout the summer. WSIB, we still have 2 off on long-term WSIB claims. That hasn't changed at all.
All right, records, court, and bylaw. I can do that one. This is Director Flutie that prepares this. So the first category that you see there is our bulk record check searches. Those are the ones that we do that generates income with respect to the bulk records checks that are being done. So it's good to see that those numbers are starting to come back. I think I've explained in past months that with some changes in cell block monitors and staffing, they had gone down a little bit at the start of the year, but we're starting to see them come back up. So that's good news. Persons charged per month. You'll see that as is normally the case, the summer months get very busy here. And actually when you look at August, which is our last month, we're actually again higher in our charges per month than we were in previous years. When you look at 2023 and 2024 there, that partly speaks to the spike that we see in busyness, call volume, severity of crime, and those sorts of things. So we do continue to get busier with more charges coming in. Warrants executed per month below that is somewhat driven by our front line, but it's also a big function for bail compliance and warrant apprehension unit. So you will see that those numbers are down a little bit over the 1 month, at least in July. We are slowly getting to where we hope to get the second person back in the bail compliance and warrant apprehension unit, and hopefully that will go up. I've always mentioned that big spike in March of 2024 that is there. That was when we actually initiated the bill compliance and warrant apprehension unit. And they had a very busy month as they first started that up, catching up on a lot of the backlogs. So, Chief, I don't know if you're going to want to comment on the broad sector police records checks, but that's been added into Director Flooney's report here. And I don't know if we've spoken to the board about those before.
So, and yeah, I'll speak to that because there's a separate report on that as well. But in July of 2024, the Ministry of Children and Community Social Services introduced an exemption under the Police Records Check Reform Act. And basically it's to do a broad sector, it's called a broad sector records check for people involved with children through the ministry. And so they developed that check and they put it into legislation. However, there was really no consultation with police services, no meaningful consultation with police services prior to what that would include, how it would be done, all those things. So it took some time for us to catch up with police services across the province and to put some guidelines and things into place on what that looked like. The Learn Committee through OSCP, law enforcement, I forget the acronym, but basically they look at disclosure for that type of like for any type of records. It's a records committee and consistency across the province, so nobody's doing it differently. They came out with their recommendations this summer on what exactly those were. People had applied for the broad sector records check and they were just sitting in limbo because the legislation said you had to make an application by March 31st of this year or April 1st. And so they were sitting there. So we're now processing those and the report coming up will explain exactly what needs to be done and why it's a little bit more in depth as to what the charges should be related to those. It includes all information released in the existing checks as well as additional records as they exist on the date of the search. Because of the scope, it's certainly a lot more work for our members. And courts, we can discuss that. Our courts say this month or June, July, and August, total custody is transported. Things of July were down, which isn't unusual for the courts. Some of the summertime is a little bit slower. The Superior Court doesn't sit very often summertime, so the hours for special constables they're down somewhat this month, but that's because we have been putting armed officers up there. There's some changes and some recommendations made through the courts. So the sworn officers are there with fully functional and therefore less special constable hours were required. That's been covered off temporarily through our part-time officers for the time being. It's going to have a significant impact moving forward because that's not a sustainable method of staffing that court security. Questions on court security? The broad sector records check. So I touched on this briefly. This is being brought forward to the board as a proposal that they're currently prior to the creation of the broad sector, there was no fee schedule for broad sector records check. Now that we've actually processed some, we're doing them and taking them in under the previous schedules, but now that we're processing them and comparing them to some of our others in the amount of work, there's a proposal here that the fee of $100 be established for the newly implemented broad sector or exempted police records check. It goes through what the scope of disclosure is, what those are, and it also talks about what needs to be done, what needs to be pulled, and the rationale for the fee increase. Obviously, the expanded workload, the significant administrative review and documentation, careful vetting to ensure compliance with disclosure standards. And then when you look at other police services, they're between $41 and $100, with many being at the $100 fee, and all of our local comparators are at the $100 fee. So the suggestion would be for the board to include this in the bylaw and to make the fee $100 moving forward.
Is there any exemptions in that? Or is it just $100 straight across the board for anyone?
It would be $100 for anyone for a broad sector records check, myself included.
Okay.
As I've already had mine done and my prints done.
Could it be considered a burden on some of the people that are looking for those types of checks?
The majority of people that are doing them are through Family and Children's Services and working with youth. And like their staff have to have them sitting on the board. I had to have one,
Mhm.
although I have no interaction with youth. I may attend an event, but unlike anybody else, I have no action with the youth at the event. I'd be present, that's all. I mean, many members of the public would be, but the legislation says in order to sit on the board, you have to have it. So the majority of them are covered by the board, like by the, including the ones for employment or volunteer. So it's one ministry thing, services basically. I would say the majority of them.
Would there be cases where the board / organization wouldn't pay for the person to have them?
I don't know the answer to that specifically. It's possible if somebody were doing an adoption, it would be part of the fees and they would be required to have that. Like a non-parental, non-custodial adoption. But that would be part of the whole process. And I don't know whether or not that's covered by provincial services or whether that's a fee as part of that process.
Would this extend to minor sports?
No.
Big brother, sister?
No, none of those are covered. This right now, it's simply for an ministry community. Child. MCCSS.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
The vulnerable sector records checks and those sorts of checks that are done for all those other agencies, they're the same. This is what I mean, that's Jack, and it's specific to that legislation.
So it doesn't involve that. Okay, so that's why.
That stays the same.
Alrighty, any questions on proposal?
Just how does this move forward then?
I guess what we need is a motion to change the bylaw and $100 fee.
A question around comparators. So in our area, you're saying that this $100 is pretty much what's being charged, so we would be standardizing that some police service areas not charging more or less.
All in favor? Gary? So I guess what we need to do then, Kayla, is update the bylaw and we'll bring it forth to the next meeting. And is it a bylaw or policy?
I believe it's bylaw.
It's the fee schedule, under the fee
Yeah,
schedule?
yeah.
That's bylaw.
Hmm.
Yeah, first, second reading.
Yeah, I'm just thinking whether we take a look at it, see if we can change it to a policy. Okay. All right.
And then it just goes through the new forms that we created. Example of the new form. Let me do the something.
Whatever you like, chief.
Go ahead.
Again, you've got 3 combined months here, June, July, and August. Record volumes in the town emergency communication centers highlighted in this report. The nice part at the start of the report is there's just some correspondence that was passed along. That's from Deputy Chief Andy Redmond from the Intertownship Fire Department, which was received on September 2nd, and it was just to pass along a special thank you for the efforts of our dispatchers, and singled out dispatcher Melissa Thompson for the great job she did on September 1st, managing multiple calls back to back, some of them occurring at the same time, different departments and mutual aid involved. I believe that was a day of storms. It was just, for whatever reason, just was a
Yeah, I think it was the.
pile of fires that ended up happening all at once, but ITFD alone had 5 calls, making an extraordinarily busy day. Melissa's professionalism and coordination were outstanding. Even in areas where we did not have good radio coverage, she went above and beyond by reaching out and updating me directly by cell phone, ensuring clear communication when it was needed most. Sometimes we need to stop and give kudos to the people who go outside the box and deliver truly exceptional work. Melissa's efforts during this multi-call day are a perfect example, and we want to express our sincere gratitude for a job extremely well done. That being said, a tip of the hat to all the dispatchers for the great job they do each and every day. We thank you for your dedication and for keeping us safe. That's a great note because that's really reflective of the work that happens back there every day. But it's great to see Deputy Redmond actually take the time to write that out and credit Melissa for the work she did on a very busy day. And they're all very busy days, but that was busier than normal, I guess. So you see the 911 calls showing there from, if you look at the column you have this month and previous month, but also prior to that, you'll see the call volumes year to date 2025 and 2024. So for incoming call volumes, we're up 6.2% on incoming calls over where we were in 2024. And just a breakdown of what those calls are, where they were referred, and that sort of thing that's in there. So again, 6.2% in a year, that's becoming consistent with what we're seeing year over year for our increases here. We operate as both a primary and secondary public safety answering point. 70% of the answered 911 calls are transferred to another. Well, communicators in the we handle about 30% of the 911 calls directly to either our service or the 5 other police agencies or the 50 fire stations that we deal with. So average daily incoming call rate per month with 911 calls and no answers is shown in the bigger chart down below there. So the red line that you see that's moving through there represents the average daily rate for 2024. So again, you'll see where we're seeing increases there as well. Call rate per month. And also then you're seeing CAT events. So this is outside of the, it can be outside of the 911 stuff. It just relates to the events that we're getting put in. And you'll see over there again, year to date change of 8.7%. For the year to date, 44,000 in 2024, we're up to about 48,000 this year. Not quite sure why, but I'll have to ask Suzanne, but there is quite a spike in the Grey County transport calls there, unless you know, Chief. That,
Yeah, it has to do with extreme weather events.
okay.
Far more.
Year to date at the end of August 2025 compared to the same time in 2024, our comm center is recording a 9% increase in the average daily dispatch rate, which means year to date average daily is now at about 198 events per day compared to about 181 the same time last year, which means our year to date average daily dispatch rate is up about 4%. You'll see another chart reflecting that below. And the comments below on the IT infrastructure, you've heard before about the NG911 process that's been ongoing here for, seems like years, but for the past 3 months, the IT team has continued to move projects forward while managing approximately 67 weeks of vacation time. We are on track right now to complete our NG911 certification testing by the end of September. It is underway, and I believe it's still track for that. Some explanation of what's been happening there with the NG911 project. And just a listing that I won't go through for brevity of a lot of the projects that are happening over the last 3 months there. So if you have any questions, that's the comm center report. Short version, busy and getting busier.
Yeah, exactly.
Reach is here.
Oh, Reach is here?
Yep.
Okay. Do we want to take a minute break for Reach and other things? Meeting back to order.
Sales look pretty
Reach.
good, so.
Up to you, Chief. Guess we're working on.
Okay, so a number of, we'll move on to the human resources, a number of changes over the summer, over the last 3 months, very busy with recruitment. And we attended a number of events looking for and recruiting individuals to join the service. Both locally and outside of our communities. With the promotional selection process, we've introduced some of those individuals, at the last meeting or at this meeting. The 14 leads for the communication center were posted. We had 2 internal applicants, 1 person was selected. We posted for 3 positions as acting opportunities and didn't receive any applicants, and now we posted again on those positions. 2 experienced officers were considering moving to the area, but they ultimately decided not to make a move from their current location. There's a new recruitment video that's going to be posted to an external training site where people prepare to write their OSCP certificates. I've watched both of them, and we're just doing some final editing on those, and they look really good. And a number of our individuals within the service are featured in the video because I'm not great, so I on video, so it's best to use people who are very good with that. So I'll probably have that available for the. So it just came back, and yesterday we basically signed off on the short version. The longer version is over 40 minutes for people to watch. It goes through everything we do here. The short version was 6 minutes, I believe, or 4 minutes. So number of hires you can see here. We did hire 3 new recruits that started at police college next week. They started their online portion already. So Megan Soulier, Jordan Louis, and Dawson DeJoux are all heading down there. Megan is interestingly was our MSER and part worker working with the police, and decided that she wanted to go into policing career as a result of her exposure and work with us. That was really a good thing. As well, you can see the other, and I'll highlight the 7 auxiliaries who have who will be donating their time, and there's 6 CFP students who were here over the summer. Go through a bunch of transfers and promotions, and then some retirements and resignations that have taken place as well. The wellness and the things members participate in the survey through the Access Occupational Stress in the Workplace, through the Public Service Health and Safety Association. It was really good to get a baseline for our service. So there were the results fall into 3 categories: challenge, concern, or thriving. You can see here that the 46% or 20 sworn members and 28 civilian members took part. 6% are thriving. 92% are scored in the concern level, and 2% were in the challenge level. So it gives a insight as to what we need to do, where we need to be, and what we can do to work on that and get it higher. So it was good survey results at 46%. Mark's an expert on that, but I think it was pretty good. We actually got people to participate. So that's it for HR. If there's any questions, and if there aren't any, I'll move on. Financial update. You can see there the financial update. Currently, this is a projection to year end. I've gone over this with Jeff Hawk, and it was provided through the city and Kate Allen. You'll see a projection of an overall of if you scroll down just a little bit, there you go. We estimate to be about $506,000 under budget for this year. I'm going to highlight that I'm not that is. It's good if you're looking at the cost of the policing, but it's bad if you're looking at the demands and the levels and the issues that led to that deficit, and the fact that you know, the people that are here that were left are doing a whole lot of work. Yeah. So some of those projections. There wasn't enough. There wasn't enough of an accrual to meet the contract settlements moving forward 2024. So the our civilian numbers are over quite a bit, but the awards done through collective bargaining were higher than what the accruals were that led to those. So, and that's the same for officers. Not as much of a disparity, but certainly that number would be even higher, and it certainly reflects on the officers who are left doing the job when we were so short-staffed. I'll highlight that you know, the officer overtime is above budget and will be considerably. So as we move through some of the instance service agreements are way above, but that includes Microsoft licensing. There was an EAP billing that was 18 months behind, that they hadn't sent any bills to us, so that ended up catching up to us for this year. So it brought forward for that, and we had to purchase some new equipment for Celebrate, which is the company that we use to download telephones. So that was unexpected, but the version that we had wasn't working and didn't provide anything. But we're over significantly in part-time wages and overtime for communications. A lot of that has to do with carrying vacancies and dispatch training under the switchboard. Moving to the telephone lines and leasing, that we're over significantly there. We've been running 2 systems. Scroll down just a little bit more. We've been running, that's it, and no, keep going. Next one. We've been over significantly on that as a result of having to run 2 telephone systems until NG 911 gets active, and that's supposed to be today. And the switch over on October 28th, so. Court security costs, certainly they've gone up, and they'll be over, especially once we start adding in some changes that we've implemented in August as a result, and that will go through till the end of the year, and that will change and increase, and we have yet to get the full impact of that, so that will change those numbers and the anticipated payroll amounts moving forward, so I'll change the overall picture. Generally, that's where we sit financially as a forecast, if they're subject to any question.
Which brings me to the next question regarding budget. So we were going to have some budget meeting dates. And what we're proposing is by October 23rd, we'll probably have a preliminary budget, and because we need a percentage increase to 8 for corporate services.
I think that is the 23rd.
Is that the 23rd?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we did that. And so do you want to meet prior to that with the board to talk about the preliminary? Because we have another one coming up, the 13th or 14th for a detailed review.
Yeah, I think I left that in my desk when the dates, the exact dates. Here it is. So the preliminary budget increase needs to be over October 23rd. The draft detailed budget 27th, and then we get feedback on the 2nd, and the final budget comes back on December 18th. So I think there should be some meeting with the board to go over the line by line prior to the preliminary budget going over on October 23rd. So somewhere in the middle of October would be a good time to have that, and then it can be moved at the end of October board meeting. Well, if you want to send out a few options on dates.
Yeah. Is there any place mid-October that are not good for anyone? Thanksgiving weekend, I know.
So you're doing, this is after Thanksgiving then, right?
Yes. So mid-October, we do the preliminary budget. So we have the percentage increase to give to Kate. And then sometime in November, we look at having a detailed budget review lined up. And so we're ready for the 27th of November for it to go to the city. And then by December 2nd, we'd have the mayor's feedback.
That week of the 15th is good for me.
Okay, so send that out tentatively sometime during the week of the 15th, because Marion's not here. Works for you.
If it was a morning, either the 14th or the 16th has potential for it.
For morning meetings, right? Doesn't matter.
Just, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. There is some, based on an email that I got from Kate back a while ago, I think I sent that to you, Craig.
Right.
It talks about January 18th attendance at council meeting. I'm not we need to clarify that, whether that's Craig attending or who it is. Because it says in summary attendance at council meeting January 19th, 2026. But yet we received the mayor's fair feedback on December 2nd, and the final detailed budget goes through on December 19th. And then attendance at council. I don't know whether that attendance at council is to talk or whether that's for the council members.
It would be good to clarify because it's such a new process
Yeah,
for all of
okay.
us. Exactly what that means and what that opportunity might present.
All right, I will, do you want to do that or do you want me to do that?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, I can do it. You don't have anything to do, ladies. All right, I'll do it, but not a problem.
I guess one question I would have as well, and if you're gonna ask for some clarification, and that is that. I'm not sure, but I believe. The group's been meeting with the mayor to send things forward, and I just don't know how the message is going to get transferred from. Police service / police services board to the mayor on drivers, like the changes in court security and things like that. And whether there's an opportunity for that to take place.
Not that we don't
Or
want
whether-
to, but.
Or whether that's, or whether that simply falls to the role of members of council who sit on the board.
So because it is a new process, I might speak to that. I had mentioned that we don't have the meetings in December that we've had in the past for our budget, so that's a day and a half that council as a whole does not meet. As a council member, I have 40 minutes with the mayor and the director of corporate services, Kate Allen, really present comments. I'm happy to obviously speak to whatever, but I recommend that communication be sent forward for awareness of issues as they're going forward and directly to the mayor and to Kate and probably the city manager as well. And because it creates the infrastructure background to CRESA that you may be bringing forward. It also has a documentation trail that I think is really important for the public to be aware of as we go forward. So certainly, I think any preliminary information that the board has that they feel would help not just council, but the public understand budget requests that come forward and to support any recommendations that you could have. And then for sure, if there's anything specific, both myself and Councillor Kepke will be having our individual 40 minutes. And certainly messaging, but I think 40 minutes to cover all of the priorities and that council lend itself too much for an in-depth conversation. So documentation is important. I think that would be my recommendation. I think the more information that's provided, because there are changes, not just in our budget process, but there's also changes in police service demands, and some of it's legislative, some of it is best practice, and some of it is absolute volume. And we need to be able to paint the picture. We're told how important storytelling is to have people understand. I think that would be helpful. But I have a question. Did you have more questions?
No,
So you've talked about budget meetings, talking about salaries and the budget presentation. And I'm not sure if this is the right time to bring forward correspondence around the facility itself, the building structure.
I think that's later on the agenda.
All right then, because it's all tied into budget.
Yes, it is.
We're going to discuss that then.
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
Well, the mayor will be sitting down with each of the 3 directors as well. Would you know for how long for each director?
I have no idea what that internal process with staff is at all. I only know from the councilor's perspective, there is a change. The meetings in December were canceled. And even the approval of the budget, the veto process, it will be no different. We're all learning as we go through this, for sure.
I would, this is just a suggestion. I would suggest that if we're if we're meeting, having a budget meeting. Middle of October, that the mayor be sitting right here when we have it. Like if he's making the decisions, that's what he's doing. He's sitting down with the directors.
We could certainly invite him.
I don't know why you wouldn't, like, if you looked at the size of this budget compared to community services or corporate services. I would think it's, I don't know, if I was mayor, I'd want to be here if I was making that decision. And I think it would be better for us as well.
And I don't have a problem with that. I think you're bang on. The issue that you're going to run into is that the council in general review line by line police budget numbers and approval. Awareness is one thing, but approval and where those changes are and what those changes are and what the costs related to those are. It's that different. It's that separation between council and board that I don't. That I'm just. I agree with the purpose and practice behind it. I just think you have, as a board, have to be careful as to what that.
In the optics.
Where the crossover is and make sure that there's clearly delineated lines as to what that role and what that function is when. If the individuals, like the mayor's coming to that meeting.
Yeah, I was just thinking more like specific explanations for each. You know, if he's.
You should be providing those to the council. And I don't know whether, I'll just briefly touch on this, we'll talk about it later. But as a member of the board, police service board, and as a counselor, in that 40 minutes, do we know, or which hat will you be wearing? You don't have to answer that. But that's. Anyway, sorry I asked.
Well, it's a really important question because we know last budget term what council police service. And it did come back for a relook, so there is that interaction around budget and requests. That's why I go back to the fact that the more information to set the stage and present the picture that all of us, counselors, everyone, will help to inform. But certainly if there are specific issues or things that the board asks for council Kathy to also bring forward. I'm here to represent, I'm a city representative on the board. But I'm also representing the service of what's being provided to our residents in our community. So, you know, I think the more guidance from the board generally, and certainly from the chief of police, would be helpful.
All right, so I'll get clarification from Kate and then I'll send a proposed meeting date for the preliminary percentage budget.
That's bordering on unfair too for a counselor to, if you're only getting 40 minutes to speak on the entire budget of the city. To try and specifically bang the table for the police board too, I don't know. You're not gonna get much done in 40 minutes.
I plan on talking a lot and fast.
No, I know 40 minutes it's not very long. It's.
I don't think I have any.
Good reason why.
We can ask him. I don't know whether he'll accept, but again, as Craig says, we have to separate church and state.
I guess if directors are given an opportunity to present, then maybe there should be an opportunity for everybody to present.
We want police, yeah, because it's technically a division or
Separate, not a division of, but
yeah, of the city, yeah.
And the clarification is, I'm not sure of the process for staff. So, and certainly my understanding is, of course, requests go through our and our directors and through the city manager as well. So that may be a separate process.
Anyway, I'll see if I can get some clarification with Kate on it, make sure that
That would be.
we've got the latest up to date stepping stones.
Yes, and who knows, there may be other opportunities for additional input. I just know how it's laid out at the moment.
All right. And it's a new process, so there may be change in variations.
Exactly, exactly.
All right, so I'll do that. So the rest of the dates will hopefully fall into place after that. So moving on to Chief's activity report.
Yeah, I mean, just of time, busy summer, June, July, August. I will say that it was a very busy summer for both Dave and I, without anybody else here, and one of us being on call 24 hours a day all summer, between the two of us. It created a number of challenges, and yet we still were here and doing all the community events as well. And we didn't really see each other all summer because one of us was away or working or on holidays, and the other one was here looking after things. So, but certainly I recognize the contributions of Dave over the summer to keep things going and running, and the fact that somebody who's picking up that phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are a number of other things that we kept moving forward. We had a really successful Special Olympics torch run. Mark, thank you for coordinating that. So many partners. Chair and I went and met with the United Way in June. I also met with the Community Safety and Wellbeing Planning Coordinator. There were a number of other things that kept on going throughout the summer, and we kept things moving forward. Public prosecution in Canada about public abuse issues. Ministry of the Attorney General should be pre-charged consultations. There are a lot of things that kept on going, and mixed in a little bit of time off as well at that time.
The Wickwadong summer event has really morphed into something that's started out 4 years ago. Certainly the attendance keeps going up, but the connections that we're making in that community are priceless as far as keeping that up and running. So thanks to both of you for coming out for that. Starting to get the hair grow back on my fingers. Thank you.
You still won't let me get in that plastic ball and roll down the hill though.
Why not? Next year. All right, moving on to other items of new business. First item is looking at changing the board meeting date from Wednesday, November the 26th to Thursday, November the 27th. And this is to accommodate attendance at OSPSB Labor Conference. So if that works for everyone, do we need to make a motion for that, or just let's change it?
Sorry, change to
27th,
Seventh
Thursday.
of November instead of 26th.
need to change our calendar.
Right, next item up is donation to the OSPSB Labor Council. Each year, the police board has made a donation to the OSPSB AGM and spring conference, as well as their fall labor conference. As a board member and treasurer, my costs to attend both of those are covered by OSPSB. So it's basically free for me to attend because all the expenses are covered. So what I'd like to do is recommend that we sponsor the labor conference for $1,000, make a donation to them. Anybody like to make that motion? Carol, thank you. Brian, second. All in favor? Carrie. All right, moving on to follow up with the April 25th letter to City Re Police Building Issues. We'll take a look on that side.
Yep.
Yeah.
This thing.
So within the board package, there was a letter from the board that we sent to the mayor council back in April. Purpose of the letter was to bring attention to some major issues we were experiencing with the facility here. These issues were highlighted in the March 2025 report on health and safety. It's prepared by Inspector Clooney. The letter that we just distributed was literally received by email at 2:47 yesterday. So, from Tim, and that's the attachment. Was normally Tim is on YouTube, and I don't see him there today. I haven't had a chance to do a line by line comparison from our letter that we sent compared to the areas he's identifying. But I think it's nice to get a reply back from a letter in April. So I think at our next meeting, I'll do a line by line comparison and see where there's any holes or items that haven't been addressed by Tim's letter. But I did thank Tim for the letter, and I think Craig and I identified one of them right off the bat is I don't see any place here where the crumbling exterior is being addressed. Go ahead, Carol.
Further to that, there's a couple of, and I know board needs time to go through this based on this, but is there a regular facility inspection that happens? Or should there be? Because some of the issues that are existing have existed for some time. And I'm just wondering at what point, what is the threshold where something that's being planned for becomes more of a priority issue? How is that addressed? That's my first question, but I have one more.
Okay, so in response to your question, I'll use the example of the brickwork, which isn't mentioned in the letter at all. But when I arrived in 2019, was a priority for the city. They were made some major emergency repairs to the brickwork in July of 2019. But the south side of the building, which is this wall right here, wasn't addressed. And then it was 2020 determined that other areas of brick were showing signs of stress, needed deteriorating. It was put on the building list to be looked after. It was tentatively set for 2021, and it was pushed back to 2023 due to other priorities, and COVID certainly put everything in havoc, and I understand that completely. A site assessment was completed in October 2022, and then again in April 2023. The brickwork at the top of the building was a priority at that time, and it was found to be worse than originally thought. Further building assessment was conducted by separate in April of 23, which also identified the brickwork as a priority. But yes, no work was done on this in 2024, and now in 2025 they did remove the ivy because they said that was a big contributing factor to the deterioration of the brick because it keeps it wet. And it also permeates, the roots permeate into the brick and create small fissures and cracks. So that was taken off. I don't even know when that was, but the wall, the south side of the building is completely green. It's from top to bottom. It's covered with ivy again, and it's not addressed. It was, it says 2025 OSPS exterior masonry repairs. Funds allocated 50,000. I haven't. It's 2/3 of the way through, a little bit more through 2025. I haven't seen anything. I have no anything's been done on that. It wasn't addressed. It's fine to have things on lists if lists gets accomplished.
So that'll be obviously further conversation.
So your first part of your question I didn't answer. Facilities are here when we call them, or at some point after we call them. And I know the ceilings of April. And the water stains, hopefully no mold. But the question is, that was April. Still no, it's now September.
So a while ago, there was a facilities condition assessment done. Was this building included within that facilities condition assessment?
The Macintosh Perry in
Okay.
April 23.
Okay, in 2023.
I believe I came in on a Sunday
Yes, you
on
did.
my own time and did because it was a rush to get it done.
Okay, okay. So that's
Could
helpful.
probably have waited.
My other question has to do with the last paragraph of the letter. which talks about working together to establish a formal facility management agreement. Now, and this relates back to budget.
And I think that facility management agreement has been talked about for about the last 3 or 4 years.
Right, so, I know we're gonna be working on the protocol agreement, and I don't know if the facility management agreement is part of.
I wouldn't think so. I would think it would be, the protocol agreement would point to a facilities agreement.
Right.
Because the facilities agreement is more of a dealing, the protocol agreement is more of a communication piece between the two
Right,
entities, as opposed to facility management agreement is likened to a lease agreement where they agree to do certain things to upkeep.
yeah. So when I read this, we currently don't have that in place.
So
Am I understanding?
that's correct, yeah.
You said so?
My question would be, if you were leasing out a property, would you have a facilities management agreement to make sure that you were changing the light bulbs for your staff, for your tenants rather? Making sure that the door is locked, making sure that the windows won't draft you? I'm not sure whether you would have one on that level. And do we really need one to make sure this place is livable for 24/7 staff?
It will be very interesting to know if any other similar facilities have an agreement and what's incorporated within that. And when I read this, you know, I always ask the question, what would be the budget implications when we don't have correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but I don't see a budget line for that currently. And if we're proposing budget requests in the future, you know, we don't want to enter into something we haven't already planned ahead of time, to have some understanding of what it even means. But it sounds like it's early days yet.
I think, Craig, you can help me with this one. If you look at the cost to the city for policing, they have a line item that says $13 million. What they don't tell you, the breakdown, is only 9 million of that is actually operating costs. The other 4 million, 3 million, whatever the figure is, involves facilities, maintenance, snow plowing, everything else here. So they look after it, but there's no formal agreement as to what.
Okay. So
Is that right, Chief? I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, so the Ontario Financial Information Reporting System.
Yes, that's it.
Does have a line breakdown. I haven't looked at it to see the current submission to see what that number is, but certainly the financial information report is not the same as what I present to you for the costs to provide policing with the city of Oldtown.
that's very helpful to understand what's incorporated within that figure.
Look at Craig's budget. There is no heating facility or sidewalk plowing or salt or anything like that. That's all covered under that additional portion.
In the $4 million.
Yeah.
We don't have a list of where that $4 million is spent.
Other than what we see. Seen the windows?
No, I'm just saying, if is 4 million being spent here, or is
I don't know.
1.5 of our million being spent at the works department, or like, I think if $9 million is the police budget, the operating budget, and there's $4 million, and they're counting it as $13 million, we need to know where that $4 million is. That's fair.
I don't know the exact numbers. I'll bring it up here.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I think it's 13 million.
Like I said, I'll bring it up here.
It's almost half the operating budget.
It's under tab 10, isn't it?
Second page. Oh. 2024 financial report is online here. All right. Submission date was May 31st, 2025, but there's nothing submitted, there's nothing posted. So I'll go to 2023.
We can get those cleared.
We can get those- we can get them for you.
For the minutes. Exactly. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's helpful. So it's about the interpretation of certainly the line, what's incorporated within that line statement, and the fact that it's presented in a way that includes facilities management, the facilities maintenance, as well as operating costs for policing.
And I think the chief tried to do that. Maybe not a formal facilities management, but tried to have people over here on a regular basis to do light bulbs, fix plumbing.
Sure.
That seemed to take longer than he thought we should budget.
I think certainly is. Understanding what the agreement would actually incorporate would be really, really helpful.
All right. Anything else on that end? But as I said, I'll do a line by line comparison what our April one was with this one coming back, Tim, and then have that ready for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Moving on to item D, selection of labor committee members. We need 2 of them. The Uniform Collective Agreement, section 33.01, and the Civilian Collective Agreement, section 28.01, calls for a labor committee of 2 uniform and 2 civilian members to meet twice a year with the board to discuss matters related to the collective agreements. Looking back, our previous board members, labor committee members, were composed of Chief Ambrose, Garth Pierce, Jill Sampson, myself, 2 of which are no longer here. What I'd recommend is that Brian be on the labor committee as he was on the bargaining committee. So then I'm looking for another volunteer from the board, and Marion has said that she would be able to serve, but it would be up to the board.
Did you say?
Yeah, she would be willing to serve. Okay. All right, so should we have a motion then to determine who's going to be on the labor committee? This is so with the Chief Ambrose, Marion, Brian, and myself.
Make that motion.
Thank you, Carol. Brian, second.
No, yeah.
Well, there is 2 against 3 at this point in time. All in favor. Thank you. All right.
Brian.
So now moving on to mid-year progress report of the operational plan, and I think turn that over to.
So I did find that number.
Oh, okay, good. How far off was I?
From 2023, it was $12,794,468.
That was 2023. So I was off.
That's
the
2023. And so that includes salaries, wages, and employee benefits, interest on long-term debt, materials, contracted services, rents and financial expenses, amortization costs, and then the allocation of program support and other. I'm assuming that is the support that we received from the city. That's another 441,000. So it ends up 12.79. The budget was just under, like the operating budget we asked for is just under 9. Or sorry, in 23 it was just
8.
that was around. I'd have to look that number up.
So we're still got a 4 million spread.
And as I say, 2024 is filed, so.
We'll take a look in 2024 might be by the time the report comes up.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yep.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so with the boards and the services operational plan, the 2023 to 2020 operational plan, we committed to doing 6-month progress updates just to build in some ongoing accountability with the persons that were responsible for the goals and actions identified in the plan. So this is the 5th 6-month progress update. So it's kind of the middle of year 3 of the 4-year plan. I've provided some highlights there, and there's a big attachment of all the updates that you can read at your leisure. Really, before we sat down to do this progress report, we looked at the timing. This is very, it reflects a time where there's a lot of change and vacancies. So there was a lot of transition in key roles that were taking ownership of some of these actions and some significant staffing vacancies. So when you read through this progress report, please just keep that in mind. Now with some transfers and new hires, we'll likely be kind of reassigning some individuals to those action plans. So again, it's just a snapshot of some of the great work that's been done, not without its challenges, as always, and that comes down to the workload and vacancies. But it is our commitment to you to keep you up to date on how things are going. Happy to answer any questions if you would like.
I think generally we're moving forward with the
Mhm.
plan, and there's been a lot of work been done. Thank you to Mark for keeping us on track. Sure, we move forward.
I do harass a lot. Thanks.
Carol.
Just one question, I mean, 2026 is just around the
It
corner,
is.
like plans for the next.
So I think by the end of the year
Yeah.
or early next year, we need to think about doing our environmental scanning with the community, with our members, and start preparing for our next plan and the priorities ahead. So throughout next year, we'll, we can review our goals and actions and see where we're at with them. Ideally, some of those have been built into ongoing business practice, and we can just let them carry on.
Yeah.
Some we might want to look at and say, are they still relevant? And maybe there's new priorities that we need to add, but the environmental scanning should ideally be next year so that we're ready with the new plan at the beginning of 2027.
Thank you.
So the funding of that 2026.
For the scanning?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so, yeah, and we've made
That was a subtle hint to yes.
a hard yes.
Sorry.
We're extremely fortunate that we have somebody here capable of doing that. That's like the statistical work and the scanning and all of those things. Because I can tell you, going around the small and mid-sized services, not very many communities have that in-house ability to do that. And so with large experience and then bring that to the table, that the budgeting for it really isn't that significant because
All right, yeah, we're very fortunate to have Mark. All right, anything else on the mid-year? That's all. Okay. So moving on to item number F, I've got court security update and changes. I think we.
yeah, so just there was some discussion previously about this. But when we're talking budget implications, so this is a background to it. In July, and into July, and then an individual was out with a shot killed by a police officer in Northern Ontario. So there is limited information because it's under the investigation of the special investigation unit. Or with that, there was information received by the service from the provincial government requesting all police services responsible for court security to review their requirements and best practices, as well as reviewing staffing levels. These were recommendations that came through. However, in looking at those recommendations, our current court security probably falls short of what those recommendations are suggesting. As a result of that, we've placed armed officers within all the courts that are open, buying from other locations, and including our part-time officers. then doesn't address what their duties were. Moving forward, this is gonna be a significant impact on budget for next year. Portion of that will be covered off through court funding. But this is across the province, so I think you'll see a significant drop in the court security funding across the municipalities as well, because as everybody adds and the budget, the pot continues to be the same, the portion of each individual's allocation continues to go down. So just by way of background, Community Service Safety and Policing Act, Section 243 states that the police services has policing responsibility for an area, has the following responsibilities with respect to premises where court proceedings are conducted. This is why it falls to some police service and the board to provide court security within the facility, ensuring the security of judges and other judicial officers during the hours when judges and other judicial officers are normally present, ensure the security of the premises, ensure the secure custody of persons, determine the appropriate levels of security for the purposes of paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 in accordance with the regulations, if any. So really, that's the law that covers off what needs to be done as far as court security. But we certainly have to look at the recommendations and the legal aspects of those recommendations and what that would look like, taking everything into account. So as I mentioned, starting in August 2025, we redeployed some current resources, but our part-time officers aren't taking the calls for service and assisting the front line, not doing traffic enforcement, they're not doing any visible foot patrols in the core, all of those things that were being looked after and now aren't being looked after. And they were already handling a significantly higher workload comparators for calls for service per officer and criminal charges. So this is something that we're going to have to address in the upcoming budget 26.
Any questions? Moving on to mental health wait times.
So I can speak to it, but I'll give credit where credit's due. This is Mark's work. So this is just shows you the number of apprehensions by month and the total wait times. July, there were 15 in July and 14 in August. Both months were record highest numbers related to incidents so far. And in July, the total time spent waiting at Bright Charters was over 29 hours, the highest of any month so far in 2025. We've been doing really well in getting those numbers down. And I've had a number of meetings with Bright Shores over with Inspector Flooney and I brought Inspector Doherty to the last one. We've had some really good results. They're working with us, and I'm quite happy. They've increased their security, which is helping us as well. But there were two significant incidents where wait times reached 5.5 and 4 hour delays and turnovers. They have implemented a process whereby anytime that there's a lengthy delay, I can send them, they do an after action review on that to say, what's the issue? Why was it so bad? And really there's been good work back and forth between the two, and there's a lot of cooperation on that. If there's an issue that delayed the turnover, that was a training issue or a problem, or there's one thing if it's something that can be fixed, but if there's other things, if there's 3 people come in on a crash and we're not the party, and kind of stuck with that, although I'm not happy about it, and we're having people look at their protocols to say, well, does the emergency physician really need to see the person if that's the case? And so we're working with them, and like I said, it's been getting better, and then this month over the summer there were some increases that caused some issues. So subject to any questions, that's
Yep.
times.
Moving on to quote for additional M365 Microsoft.
Yeah, so this is basically an information piece for the board, just to explain some of the drivers and that. So implementation of new web-based police reporting applications. It's called the MORA application, and it works on context and data collection, processing, quality. It's basically a quality assurance program so that the officers input the proper information and we have the proper information, so that policing is becoming more and more data driven, and we need to make sure that we're following we're set as Mark has taught me a long time, crap in is crap out, so we wanna make sure that we move beyond that and that we have, good quality analytics and good quality data captured from the very beginning. So this is a project to make sure that we do that moving forward. And so we're working with the Very Police Service on that application and we're looking to put it in. One of the things is that it requires a higher level of Microsoft 365 licensing in order to use that. So this is an awareness piece for the board, just to explain the reason for it, the rationale behind it and why we need it. And we certainly, there's other things in here as well, talking about the niche RMS and the universal application, and so it's a newer version that's come out and how that impacts things as well. But really the big piece of this report is to highlight the fact that in order to work properly, we need a proper platform to make it work. So that'll be included in the budget next year as a change to the Microsoft licensing fees.
Plus, if we use it and we're not licensed for it, we go to jail. All right, moving on to item I, police reported crime in Canada. No one's out.
I'm turning this one over to Howard.
So thank you, Chief. Board members, I'm not going to go through a full presentation today just for time, but I do appreciate the opportunity just to highlight a few key things for you in the report. There was some figures that were attached to that initial report, and they really just follow along. Each paragraph is in reference to one of the figures to help explain it. I'm not going to reread for you. Just while Kayla's set up here. What happens every year with Stats Canada is there's a whole verification process at the end of the year, and there's time allowed for everyone to get in their final uniform crime reporting coding. So all the verification of that, the prior year happens in about April. We get drafts to review in May, and then they do their final release around July. So it does seem like a bit of a time delay when we're in September and we're talking about 2024 stats, but that's part of it. So the official release was in July. I think you forwarded some of the highlights to the board members that when it was released, yeah. So oh dear, okay.
I have some technical issues with the PowerPoint, but
Decide anything I can do with mine.
Can you just click on it and just play? It's showing,
No.
yeah.
That has not enough. I did not pay for the seats.
Probably not.
Here, you need this one. Wrong mouse.
Okay.
Yes. I've
Hmm.
not without its challenges. But okay.
Wanted to share it with them.
Oh.
share with the broader community.
Play down here. Play, is that play?
Start.
Or refrigerator, just don't.
No, yeah.
Where's this? Actually, there, okay.
Very.
All right, no, that's okay. So I've included the information graphic from Stats Canada for you just to get an idea of the national trends and how OSL compares to some of the national trends. In the attachment and the overview, just as a little background, there's always many different ways of looking at crime stats. So I don't want to hit you up with the graph, but generally speaking, they are using account of the most serious violation or the most serious violation in any one incident. So if there's an incident that's all connected, there could be 2, 3, 4 multiple charges. But when we're doing these official counts of crime, it's really just the one most serious violation that gets counted. The first few graphs in this are based on crime severity indices. So that was something that Stats Canada came out with a while ago, where they're looking at both the volume and the severity of crime and turning it into an index, a weight. So they give crimes with greater severity, like homicide, manslaughter, assault, greater weight than something like a property crime where there's a theft under 5,000. So the indices are really what people have been looking at as the best indicator, but we'll also show you some information that's based on straight counts of crime, as well as per capita rates. And per capita rates take that volume of crime and then divide it by a population per 100,000. So you can get a relative similar idea compared to other jurisdictions with different populations. So with that in mind, these first 3 graphs, again, are based on the crime severity index. This is the total crime severity index. And you can see here that Owen Sound went from 2023 to 2024. Our total crime severity index declined by 19%. The violent crime severity went down by 37%. And the non-violent one also went down. It went down a little bit less by 3%. But what I wanted to highlight here is that although we did see decreases between 23 and 24, 2023 was really a peak year for us. So the decreases are really relative. And in all those graphs, you can see how Owen Sound is significantly above that average for the other 28 municipal services there that are served populations of under 120,000. So that's really, although the declines are great, it's still important to note how much higher our indices are compared to some of the others there. And last year too, the last couple of years, this has been kind of a consistent trend.
Chart really, yeah, that chart really goes to help explain to you the differences between municipalities too, because I mean, you look at us tied in with places like Sault Ste. Marie and Timmins, but then you look at LaSalle, the rich bedroom community of Windsor, Strathmore Caradoc, primarily rural farm property, and South Simcoe, same thing, bedroom community to GTA, Toronto, and Barrie area. So that just shows you the differences in what you get based on where you're located and what your graphics look like.
Definitely different set of influencing factors in different communities. Yeah. So that was just a quick highlight for those 3. This one here is a historical look at the police reported crime and the crime severity indices for Owen Sound back 10 years. So again, you can really see that peak of the violent CSI in 2023. But I did want to point out, kind of back to 2017, back the last 7 years, is when we see the violent CSI, the blue line, surpassing the other 2 and it has really stayed above that 100 level mark for the past 7 years. So again, it's an index, but I always kind of look at that 100 threshold as something that is a little bit more significant than some of the other areas and the reported indices. So the next one I wanted to highlight was, again, the clearance rates. So like the CSI, Stats Canada also does a weighted clearance rate. So they give crimes that are more severe a higher weight when they're looking at the overall clearance rate. So clearance rate it's the portion of criminal incidents that have been cleared by charges or cleared otherwise. And there's a whole bunch of different ways that things could be cleared otherwise. So unlike the actual count of crime, we really like to see rates going up. And you can see in this graph, for the last couple of years, our clearance rates have gone up here at Owen Sound Police, which is quite surprising when you look at the volume of crime that our folks are dealing with. So again, kudos to the team. Again, some of that speaks to the influencing factors too of the city, that there's a lot of well-known people But anyway, it is a really good indicator there that especially the violent crime at 90% clearance rate is a really good indicator.
Even just a comparator for the other communities.
Yeah.
That's significant.
I'm gonna jump ahead to this next figure. So this one is looking at just a straight count of crime that has been reported to Owen Sound Police. So you can see the last 3 years, over the 10 years, we've been reaching a peak volume. So 2022 was a high, got a little bit higher, and then again in 2024, we went up another 4% in 2024. The one thing that I pointed out in the report, but I would like to highlight here is when we go back between these past 10 years, our authorized complement of officers was at 41, and it was the exact same number for the past 10 years. And the volume here in 2024, we were at just over 12,000 reported crime, and we've more than doubled at over 26,000 reported crime.
An interesting chart, because if you drew a line from one end to the other, you see the impact of it.
Yeah.
2 years where it dropped, but then as we move back into 2022, it's back to exactly where you'd expect it to be if
Yeah.
COVID didn't happen, kind of thing, so.
And when you look at the national trends, there is absolutely a similar decline during COVID when people were all tucked in and not going, but yeah, it is certainly ramping back up again.
I think this one speaks most to the workload demand on our officers, when we look at the double, the actual incidents of reported crimes and staffing levels.
I'm gonna come back to that. Yeah, when we look at a few graphs that do rates. So to just keep one in mind, I'm gonna jump ahead. I won't, these graphs, you can look for like the different specific crimes that are adding the more volume, but I won't go into that right now. So this graph here is a crime rate. So this is taking the total number of reported criminal code violations across these 28 municipal services and then dividing it by their population per 100. So you can see here that Owen Sound comes out as the highest crime rate per population at 11,449. So if you think of the other graph, how over the last 10 years we've increased, but again, relatively speaking, the population of Owen Sound hasn't really gone up the same proportion. So you can see how with the denominator not really changing, that rate goes up and changes over time. Again, although it's not shown here, but I did go back into the crime rate calculations, and in 2024, the crime rate was less than half of what it is right now. So it's at 11.4 in 2014, the crime rate for Owen Sound was 5,600. So again, more than double what we've seen over the last 10 years.
Just the two at the far end, that's the Ontario and the Canada average.
Yes. Yeah.
But basically across the country. So,
Yeah. Across the province, across the country, just as benchmarks. And then this line it's an artificial average that I have created of these 28 municipal services, all serving populations under 120,000. And they're ordered from highest to lowest population in all of the graphs when you look. So, and there's you'll see a few that stand out in a lot of these different indicators. So the trends are, but this one, certainly the per capita rate stands out, and you can see the difference above that average compared to some of these other communities. So the one more that I wanted to show you is the last one. And this one takes a look at the total that count of the total violations and divides it by your authorized sworn officer strength to give you an average criminal code workload per officer. So it is an average because we know that there's officers in detectives and community services roles, but it's just based on an average of the authorized strength. Now the authorized strength for all of these are from 2023, and the criminal code violation count is from 2024 here. We don't have the 24 numbers yet for the police personnel. Last year at the time, when we looked at this graph, Owen Sound was at 63. on average criminal code violations per officer, and they were the highest of this group of services. So this year we did go up to 65, but we were surpassed by Kawartha Lake, so we're the second highest. The one thing too that is really important to note, that criminal code violations and incidents that end up with a charge are, I would say, roughly about a third of the workload that officers are involved in. So all of the non-criminal things like public health issues with addiction and homelessness, mental health, time spent waiting at the hospital, waiting for a mental health apprehension, sudden deaths, missing persons, disputes between neighbors. None of that workload is captured here because it's non-criminal, but it still takes a lot of the officer's time. These are all just different indicators for consideration. They all have a little bit of the big picture that offers some insight into the stories. But I think with these 2024 stats, we can really see the volume of workload for the folks in our services increasing significantly. So I'll hand that over to you. Yeah.
That speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Open it to the floor.
Thank you, Mark. Very.
Question?
Well, thank you for this information. It is extremely helpful. In some of the graphs you showed, you made particular notes, for example, around the same number of officers or the fairness for some, I don't know how far afield these graphs go, but certainly those kind of asterisks, important factors are really, really helpful in the interpretation, for sure. As I see the numbers and hear what you're saying, and we see where Owen Sound stands, people who are either watching this or listening to what we're saying, how do we respond to the public when we see the increased trend? There is a concern around safety and policing and that. What's the plan from the service around the fact that the numbers and the data are certainly quite different in the last few years? We're seeing trends. What is the messaging that we want to send out to the public?
I don't think anything's changed in the information is the same, but we're busy.
Yeah.
We don't have the staffing and resources that we need to keep up with the demands that we are experiencing.
Yeah.
The demands, when you look at those, that's fine, but when you add in 3 homicides in a year, that skews those whole numbers considerably because of the workload and demands, not just for that homicide and for the next 2 years while it makes its way through the court process. So the message is that it's a busy place. There's a lot of demands for our services. Everything that's hosted here within the city creates demands for our service. The victimization of individuals who are homeless, mental health, and suffering from addictions, so they're victimized at a much higher rate. And if everything is concentrated here and the problems are concentrated here, that reflects in those numbers. And we need more of a proactive response. We need more of an officer presence and more of an officer response in order to meet the demands for the community.
What you've done is almost provided a menu of those influencing factors that make us unique. Do we have that kind of document available for people to even understand the differences? The fact that we are a regional center, that there are regional services here, because this is really important information. Otherwise, you look at certain parts of information, but it all goes together, right?
I don't know that exists anywhere other than some dated studies on Justice Canada about victimization rates of individuals who are suffering from those mental health addictions. But I think it's what the deputy spoke to. When we get compared, well, you're about the same size as Strathroy.
Exactly.
Well, we're not Strathroy or Strathroy Caradoc, but half of our municipality isn't rural with farmland that nothing happens. You're about the same size as LaSalle. So why are you that much more expensive than LaSalle? Because LaSalle controls an area of very affluent neighborhoods that anybody that needs social services, anybody that needs any supports are in Windsor. And, you know, so the comparators have to be comparators to the demographics that you serve and the demands that you get for service. You have to remember, criminal calls for service, very, other than some of the compliance type based calls, the majority of those calls come in as a complaint. So we don't control those numbers. We control the compliance end of things, but we don't control the calls for service when somebody assaults somebody else and somebody witnesses it, or the victim calls in and makes a complaint. So we're not driving those numbers up. The majority of those are coming in through 911. You see the increase in the calls on 911, you see the increase in the charges, you see the increase in the incidents. We don't control those numbers. We just respond, and we're left to hold the bag.
And you've exactly named, you know, the comparators, often people compare size only. And that's the kind of influencing factors of reference sheet about why Owen Sound is Owen Sound and what makes us unique and what factors influence the policing demands. Considering it is quite remarkable what the graphs are telling us, what the data is telling us, and understanding that is really, really important. Thank you.
The other thing you talk about size, so we're 21,000 people population. We know that during the week, daytime, that increases to probably 40,000 people. So that's why those stats are so much higher.
And we can show you
Stone
those
Sound.
stats as well when we look at our call spreads, so our daytime calls spike, which is exactly what we expect from the influx of people coming in, and they drop off at night, which is a flip from some of the other services as well. So
And all of those are important bullet points to understand what the data is telling us and why Owen Sound is reflective of the demand for service.
Examples, that was when Orangeville moved from municipal to OPP. And we heard firsthand from the dispatchers. Unfortunately, they had to move on because they were too busy here. Where in Orangeville, they were a bedroom community. So calls went way down all during the day and afternoon, and they went up for a little bit, 5, 6 o'clock. Well, here, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, it went up and stayed up all afternoon.
And I just wish there was a way to get this message out a little bit better, but it's complex data stuff that doesn't fit in a 1-minute soundbite kind of thing. And we get into a lot of this during our Citizens Police Academy, and responses, everybody's sitting there going, wow, I had no idea. Like, why is this? And it really sparks that conversation, but it takes you an hour or two to get there. And how do you hit the public with that much? Because you have to sit and look at a whole bunch of charts, and then it all starts to make sense. Otherwise
It's that interpretive analysis, that those data elements that are help with exactly what you're saying, because otherwise it's a lot of information, making sense of the data.
And the stories behind them, you
Exactly.
mentioned that before
That's
too.
very important.
We need to know why though. Like the numbers are pretty significant. Like we're leading the league in all the wrong categories. So if you don't know the why specifically, it's pretty hard to, like, if we just accept the numbers and not do anything about it, it's just gonna get worse. Like if I said to you, exaggerating, if we went to 55 officers and had that kind of police presence around town with those numbers, are you confident 100% that those numbers would drop right off?
Let me give you an example. So in Toronto, the government spent millions of dollars on guns and gangs. Put officers in the city. It was just like taking a balloon, squeeze it at this end, and it pops out the other end and goes out. Yeah. So you put 55 officers in here, that's another balloon effect. It'll go someplace else.
Like on a smaller scale, that's what most people in our community want right now, is more police presence downtown. You know, the average person will tell you that, and you know.
Absolutely, and you know what, can I say right now that the number of assaults will change? No, I'm not gonna say that, but there is the, you know, the deterrence factor and the visibility and the safety and perceptions of safety and all those things that go along with that are what brings people back to the downtown. And we have to, like right now, if there's nobody down there, then whatever happens, happens, and people act the way they do. If they know there's not gonna be anything, it's the same way if we didn't have a bail warrant apprehension team. You know what, then there'd be more people breaching the terms of it, but when you make a couple hundred arrests or more a year, then you're gonna have an impact, and eventually some of them might get held in custody. Well, that's another whole debate, but you know, it's the services that are provided locally. You don't see the same numbers, and if you go back and you bring them up for, you know, our closest comparative, who's getting very close in population size to us now is Saugeen Shores, they'd be the closest, and they're growing and they're bustling, but they don't have a homelessness addictions issue. They do, but it's isolated, and because there's nowhere to get the supports and a meal, and so people that are looking for those supports don't stay in that community. You know, Bruce County needed places to keep house people last year, and they rented a facility in Gray County, and then when they get kicked out of that facility, the only place that's open 24 hours a day is here locally. So people need the supports. That draws people into the community.
I just think we have to do something about it, like it's, I feel like we're just choking the budget more and more and more every year, and the numbers keep going up and up and up, and worse.
Well, I can tell you that the demands on our officers, and Craig's coming from the front line, and he can speak to it as well, but the demands on our officers, when you look at the comparators to everywhere else, like
It's double.
it's not sustainable. We need assistance, we need help, we need bodies out taking calls and being visible and dealing with things, and hopefully some of those numbers come down, but even if we don't see them coming down, that's the only way we're gonna meet the demands moving forward, because the workload per officer, it's way up there. Like, we can't keep doing that.
But those
For
numbers,
people,
those numbers aren't coming down. Like they're going up every year.
and they're going up every year everywhere, but ours are at the point when you compare them to our staffing and resources. Like, we're on the same trends as everybody else, we're just way too high compared to everybody else. And Mark, you can comment on it, but everybody's took a dip during COVID, and then they're still slowly going back up. They came down, you know, last year on violent crime and things like that, and that was a national trend as well, but generally we're following the same trends, we're just way out of whack to that. That's the community that we serve.
From a growth perspective, like, we know what we have based on our population, which hasn't really changed a lot in the last few years, but we are anticipating over the next 4 to 5 years that there will be a growth in our population. How do we do that proactive growth projection for the need for the police services? And I mean, I know we need a service, and we need more service, but it seems to me that we need almost a projected plan over the next 4-ish years as we're adding on to our population.
Like, honestly, I think you're making a good point, but don't you think we have to catch up first before we start worrying about being proactive? And that's where I think we're at. We have to catch up.
For sure, for sure.
I think it's a combination where it's the just-in-time
Solution that we have to find, recognizing the demands of our police services and the issues and where we are. And it is planning for the future, so that we're planning for police servicing in the future, knowing, you know, we've had a sort of a stable population for a while, and we are growing, which in any community, correct me if I'm wrong, with growth comes demand for service. And so
it's neither one or the other. It's planning for the just now.
and what's happening over the next operations review, which you're planning on,
And what do we do?
knowing we're finally getting all of these, the builds happening. So I do agree, but I think it's both.
You're right, it's both. We have to catch up, Brian's point, and we have to plan for the future. And I'm afraid the combination of those two numbers are going to be significant.
Welcome.
So you're going to have even more difficult time at budget time with the council. Just say it.
It all fits hand in hand when you look at all of the different stats, because there's no stat anywhere that we have that's out of whack that would suggest that the police service isn't being efficient. In fact, when you look at the charges per officer and the clearance rates, you're gonna go, that's probably one of the most effective police services in the province for what's happening there. Then you look at the look at our communications report and go 6 to 8% increase in the calls. Calls for service coming in. That's not things that we control. That's the call that we have to respond to. Which takes up our officers' times. So,
I'm getting choked up.
yeah.
Any other questions for Margaret on the police report? Right, thank you, Mark. Appreciate that very much.
It's great.
But a lot of people learned a lot of things.
Yes, thank you.
So. All right, moving on to item number J, taxi broker application for a new taxi company. During our closed session, Mr. Sumit Singh provided the board with personal information related to his application for a taxi broker license. Board found that the proposed business location would be compliant with the city's zoning requirements and has made application for a business license within the city of Owen Sound. Based on the information provided in his application, the board agrees to approve Mr. Singh's application as a taxi broker. Could I have a motion to that effect? Moved. You moved, Brian, thank you. Carol, second. All in favor? Carry. All right, next item on the agenda is updates of the signing authority at bank. Our current signatures we changed, or the current ones are Ian Body, Brian O'Leary, Chief Ambrose, Jeff Hawk, Jeff Flynn, Dave Bishop, and myself. So I think what we need to do is select replacements for Ian, Jeff, and update Dave's title to Deputy Chief. So can I have someone move replacements or suggest replacements for Ian and Jeff?
I would move that we, you, Carol. and Marion.
You're willing to do that?
Tell me what that entails.
It's just your name on a piece.
It's a figurehead position. I've never signed anything since I've been here. Oh,
But I haven't.
anyways,
It's been out of date so long that I've had to sign everything.
Join the program.
Marion's name at the top.
actually alphabetically. Sorry.
I don't know why you have to have that many on there. Is that?
Diana, this is what the bank asked for. So let's do Carol and Marion and made the motion, Carol and second it. All in favor here. So we have a meeting with the city October 20th. And under the meeting guidelines, cities required, it's basically under the protocol agreement. They require that I provide the city clerk with a list of police board members who plan to attend the meeting at least 2 business days in advance of this meeting. So I guess on the 18th, I'll have to do.
What, the meeting is when?
It's October 20th with the cities to discuss. It's under the protocol agreement where we have a meeting with 2 cities for at least twice a year.
Is that October 20? Yeah. And what's?
30 in the afternoon.
20?
Is that a month?
It's somewhat problematic because the city has no, I was at the Bay Shore that same evening, so I'm not sure how they're gonna have. Same thing. Yeah.
Well, doesn't council have a meeting evening?
Not that particular day, I don't believe.
Can we just commit to putting a booth at the Bay Shore?
Did we? Okay. All right. So anyways, 21, 2 days before whatever the meeting is, and we'll clarify that in the minutes. Well, I'll need to make a list of people that are going to attend from the police, representing the police services.
Certainly, depending on timing, I'm more than willing to attend, but I need some clarification whether that's in front of council. Because
Yes.
there are 2 hats.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, you will.
Been over to you.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Okay. So release Brian and then I'll confirm the dates. I don't know where I made that 20th date. All right, and then I'll also touch base with Marion while when I find out the exact thing. And then same thing will happen with Chief Ambrose. If you're going to have anyone from the service attend, you'll have to provide them names to Brianna 2 business days.
Monday, October 27th.
That's when the council meeting is.
That's when Brianna,
Oh, you got that email? Is that right? Oh, good,
yes,
good.
Monday, October 27th from 3 to 4:30.
That's the one.
Have that already.
The 27th. 3:30, right? 3 o'clock.
To 4:30.
And as of yet, I do not have an agenda for that. It's, the city is making up the agenda. So we are attending their meeting. Right,
So just for clarification, it's a protocol.
it's based on requirements in the protocol agreement, the city has to, and the city and the police services board meet at least 2 times per year.
Did you say 3 p.m.?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, and the next item up is appointment of 2 special constables.
Yes.
Do that very quickly if you like. You will have seen this before since the CSBA came in. So with the new act, the process for appointing special constable switched from the ministry to the board. So it's now a board responsibility to do appointments and certificates. All of the special constables that we had before under the ministry were grandfathered in until such time as their appointments expired. So we are starting to work through. These are both pre-existing special constables who were formerly appointed under the ministry and have now reached the expiry of the ministry appointment, and it now goes back to the board for even though the act's been in there, this is the first time that they'll be coming. And you'll see this as time goes on for all of our specials because they all have different expiry dates. So the simple version is we would just be looking to reappoint both special constable Jason Helm and Peter Hogenberg as special constables for the Owen Sound Police Service, which would involve basically those appointments. There's a form that needs to be filled out, signed by the board chair here, and then we will issue a certificate of appointment to them if you so.
And do you need a motion from the board for us?
I think we did it last time for that, yes.
I have a motion to appoint those, Carol. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. All in favor? Here. I can sign those. All right, having completed everything on the agenda. Public meeting at 12:19.